What? Here's Brunette. Brunette's in. Andrew Brunette shot, score! Andrew Brunette in sudden death overtime, and Minnesota is moving on.
I won't need my high school diploma anymore. I am the smart. I am the smart. I am the smart. I am the smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
Played here by Danny Heatley, and out they come 2-on-1. This is Niederreiter holding onto it, and he scores! Nino Niederreiter wins the series for the Minnesota Wild.
And welcome to the Giles and the Goalies podcast here on what will be a Monday morning for all our faithful listeners, all three. All one of you that isn't us.
As we determined yesterday, we have one. We have confirmed one.
We've met one of our listeners.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because you guys were at the game. Or watching the game at Tom Reed's yesterday. I heard that was a pretty good time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Our esteemed colleague Nate Wells showed up, and
he is esteemed.
Our esteemed boss, I guess, John Bonus showed up. So we had a good crew. It was all four of us representing the website, and a couple of Giles friends who. One of them recognized me from the podcast, which is the first time I've ever been recognized from anything. That was very excited.
And he tried to downplay it immediately.
Yeah, he said he listened to one episode, and I was like, you know what, we'll take it. We will take it.
Thanks, Dan.
At least he didn't recognize you from like a police lineup or something.
I guess, I should correct that. It's the first time I've been positively identified in a positive manner for something that I've done positively.
That's right. If you'd been 2 inches taller that one time, though.
Right, exactly.
Real trouble.
It could have...
Anyway,
I wasn't wearing my
we haven't introduced anybody yet, and since we only have one listener and we want to attract more, we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
But Ben, who's never been positively identified, is here.
No, I've never been positive about anything, really. So
I, Charlie, am here. Giles Farrell is here, of the Giles and the Goalies name. And Giles always comes in with some sort of a beef. Of some kind. It's different every week. It's not always hockey related.
It varies.
This
greatly.
week it is hockey related, and it relates to a game that was on earlier today, as food is delivered. The Nashville Predators and the Chicago Blackhawks, and it got Giles' blood up a little bit.
Well, yeah, because I remembered 3 years later, Paul Gaustad was traded for a first-round pick. How is David Poile still employed? Because he traded a first-round pick for a fourth-line center. That's a pretty fireable offense.
But he wins face-offs, Giles. And in 2012, or whenever this happened, that's a huge deal, right?
2012?
2011?
Something like
that.
It was when the Predators made their big stretch run for the Cup. And
that was 2012,
in the second round.
I believe.
I think they lost to the Coyotes, if I remember correctly.
Ooh.
But, yeah.
Yes.
Bottom point is David Poile should have been fired, but he got saved because George McPhee decided to hand him Philippe Forsberg on a platter.
It was the anger you showed on Twitter this afternoon, even though I couldn't see you, seemed much higher than what you got now.
He's had time to cool off.
Yeah.
Might have something.
I calmed down.
Now, is that trading a first-round pick worse than trading a first-round pick for Sekera and then not making the playoffs like the Kings did this year?
That's pretty bad.
I had completely forgotten about that.
It was a first-round pick and a player as well.
Who was the player?
It was a prospect. I don't remember who. It wasn't anybody huge, obviously. Yeah. But it was a first-round pick and middling prospect that could end up being a fourth-liner someday. I mean,
right.
Who knows? Somebody who's going to live in infamy in LA Kings lore if he ever scores more
if they don't
5
keep
goals.
Him.
True.
Maybe they'll keep him.
True.
The Kings may not be in the playoffs, but their possession stats are still fantastic.
They are course-wicking the crap out of the rest of the league.
We're not going to get into what the Kings or their players are possessing right now.
Look at you, Jared.
Because,
what else do you do in Vegas?
I don't know. I've been there 3 times and I didn't do that.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Only because I couldn't find a dealer.
Wait, gambling's not the thing there anymore?
Well,
he was gambling of a kind. He was gambling with his career.
He was,
that's true.
I love that we've gone this far on this topic that we weren't going to touch.
Well,
we can
You don't get a whole lot of NHL police blotter stuff. I mean, we're not a football podcast, so.
Well, now that Sean Avery's gone.
Yeah. So I mean, well, I guess we could have this year with Slava Voinov and Romero and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, we need to ask some football podcast people what they do.
How much time they spend on crime.
You have to cap it at like 12 minutes every week?
You probably should.
Okay.
Especially Vikings podcasts.
Yeah. There probably is just a Vikings legal podcast. If there isn't, we could start one.
There's a couple of Vikings fans / lawyers sitting around a table debating on what the
They don't even have to be lawyers. I think
what the ramifications of the team's legal moves are.
I think if you've worked for the Vikings, it doesn't matter if you mow the grass at the practice field. You're like a qualified paralegal by now.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to be that and a bail bondsman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably toned down a little bit once Randy Moss left, but
it really hasn't. It really hasn't.
No,
think so.
They're pretty consistent.
I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
It really hasn't. I mean, from the Wizinator to the Love Boat to
I forgot about the Wizinator.
To Corn Robinson. Let's see who else. What else we got here? The guy that got shot this year. We had a player get shot.
Yeah, but that's not his fault.
No, but I mean, it's still police officer.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything.
And then Adrian Peterson.
He was just standing there.
Situation. Yeah, but you're at a club at midnight. Like a day before a game or whatever it was.
It was like a day before.
After
it was like a day after a preseason game.
Oh yeah, it was after.
Your facts are way off.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I've got an
ultimate innocent bystander.
Yeah, I've got a vendetta against the Vikings. I need to let it go.
Okay. Well, let's let it go. Let's get back to the hockey because we are a hockey podcast, and that was like 5 minutes of
we are?
NFL
and
police blotter
I can
stuff.
safely say we've lost our one listener, Dan, because we've gone on far too long with football talk.
I don't blame him.
Well, let's talk. Well, we're 2 playoff games in.
Sure.
You can listen to this sometime before tomorrow's game, 7 o'clock, game 3. Yeah, we hope we'll have it up there for you to do so.
Sure.
But thoughts so far? The Wild get out of St. Louis with a split, which I think anybody would have taken.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. The only thing that would surprise us is if this was a short series either way. And so far, it's not looking like it's going to be a short series either way. The Wild certainly, I wouldn't say dominated game 1, but I think they played very well. They played their game plan. They did exactly what they needed to do, and they got a pretty convincing win. And I think the complete opposite in reverse on Saturday. I
think so?
Yeah,
I didn't think they got dominated. The Wild.
No.
They didn't play
that's what I mean.
well for
Neither
60 minutes,
team dominated either game.
I thought the Wild controlled game 1. For other than 10 minutes of the third period. And maybe you could say the same things about the Blues.
The first period wasn't really all that hot for them either. But yeah, I think the Blues just played a little bit more of their game on Saturday. So I think you said the Wild played their game and won on Wednesday or on Thursday, and the Blues played a little more of their game and won on Saturday. And then I think that's just kind of going to be the ebb and flow of this series. Maybe.
I guess the way I look at it for game 1 is the Wild were the road team.
Right.
Neither team was great in period 1. The Blues were really good until Zucker scored.
Yeah, it was a really feeling.
Second period was all Wild.
Yeah, yes.
And then the third period, the Blues came on. I mean, you can call it score effects. You can call it whatever you want. But if you are controlling the game or no one is controlling the game, then the road team is controlling the game. To me. That's what you want. A dull game if it's not your game.
Right.
And I think that's what game 1 was, other than the last 2 minutes, which got weird. But
that was quite bizarre. But that's playoff hockey.
Well, everybody stopped playing after they went up 2 and the Blues went down a man.
Yeah.
So
everyone just thought it was going to turn into a slugfest after that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh hey, by the way, they scored.
I don't think the Wild thought it was going to turn into a slugfest. I think the Wild thought that St. Louis had quit.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I thought that they were just going
to,
it was just going to turn into a chippy kind of, like the end of that game in Colorado, basically. You get the cross-check off the face-off, and then it just kind of devolves from a hockey game.
Yeah.
Grenland's grin at David Backus was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and Breezy Palmville laughing on the bench at the situation was awesome as well.
It's one of those things, the Blues do that stuff all the time. If the Blues are losing a regular season game, they try to send a message at the end of it. Doesn't matter if it's against an Eastern Conference team that they're not going to play for another year. They do that stuff all the time, and it's one of those things where it's gotten to the point where, and I wrote about this for Saturday morning, if they start to do that, you have it.
Yeah.
Because that's just admitting a loss and trying to, pump yourself up for the next one. And I think that's part of the reason why the Blues don't win playoff games.
Could be.
And because they have
playoff series, I should say.
They have the Weasel Steve Ott.
The Wheeze.
He's certainly drawn some ire. I think he could be a pretty well-hated opposition player.
Well, he always has been.
I mean, just more notorious in this area. Kind of like the old days with the Canucks, where Todd Bertuzzi was a household name, and for all the wrong reasons. I don't think Steve Ott was before this series for a lot of casual Wild fans, but maybe he will be after this.
He'll be up there with the entire Ants roster.
Yeah, Tony McLeod,
Matt Cook.
Matt Cook. Matt Cook. Wait, that's right.
He's still pretty disliked.
Well, remember, there was some talk past summer, when Ott was a free agent, that the Wild were going to go after him.
Yeah.
I don't know how far it got, but it was, the place I read it was in a Russo column, which is usually not somewhere you read just rumors.
Right.
So,
it's not much on hot takery.
Can you imagine a fourth line that includes both Steve Ott and Matt Cook?
Or doubles.
Yeah, doubles would lose his mind. First of all, Steve Ott doesn't bring much to a hockey game anymore. There was a time when he was an okay third-line player when he played in Dallas.
Right.
But, he is a total passenger on this Blues team. He and Ryan Reeves.
Yes.
Who I would have to imagine Ryan Reeves is really hoping the Blues win this series. Because if they lose and Ken Hitchcock gets fired, Ken Hitchcock is like the only coach in the world that would still employ a guy like Ryan Reeves.
Yep.
So he's going to lose his job in a second. It's like, we fired him. We brought in an analytics guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan.
See ya.
No, there's one team that would employ Ryan Reeves. It's Colorado.
They're
Which is
anti-analytics.
The
there
same
you go.
thing Colorado fans would say about the Wild like 6 years ago. But,
True.
Patrick Waugh has all the feels, guys. He has all the feels for a player like Ryan Reeves.
He is quite the feels.
Well, that was game one. We sort of discussed game one.
Yeah.
That's the positive side.
Yeah.
The negative side is game two.
Yeah.
But I still don't feel like the Wild got dominated in game two.
I don't think they got dominated either, but I just think the Blues played really well. I think they played their game, and obviously Tarasenko got loose, and it's the cheapest Hattie you'll ever see in the playoffs with an empty netter, but still a Hattie.
And a soft goal.
Yeah, and the second goal was soft, and hopefully that doesn't reverberate at all. Hopefully it was just an obvious mental mistake by Dubnyk, and he admitted that right away. He came off the post anticipating a pass, and it's Tarasenko, and you can't anticipate a pass with that guy. But hopefully that's that, and his first goal was a pretty hockey goal. But
yeah, that was very nice.
Aside from that, hopefully you can kind of contain him a little bit better as the series goes on.
Put up the bad signal. Get Eric Holla. Now.
Well, it's one of those things where the second goal, the soft one from the end line, bothers me a little bit in that I've noticed that this happens to Dubnyk more than it should. Rick Nash did it during the regular season. I feel like I remember it happening with a Vancouver player. I want to say it was Zach Cassian did it. Maybe that wasn't as shallow an angle, but he does have a little trouble, I think, with pucks, or maybe overplaying passes when players are on the line, and that's the kind of thing that people start to notice.
Yeah, it just could be, the after effects of being shell-shocked to Edmonton, perhaps. You can't rule that out. But yeah, it's just, it's just a mental mistake, and hopefully, like you said, he doesn't make a habit of it. It has happened to him before. Hopefully, it's not something that we see again in the playoffs, because not that was the sole reason why we lost the game, but you could make a pretty strong argument that without that goal, the Wild had a pretty decent shot at winning the game. And the David Backes life-saving swipe off the goal line.
Well, that's the other thing about the domination factor is, obviously, it's a 3-1 game without the empty net goal, so you can discount that. But if Koivu's shorthanded bid doesn't get swatted out of there by TJ Oshie, Charlie Coyle's off the post, off Allen's back, has one more mile per hour, then it's, now you're looking at 3-3. And it's a totally different game. The one goal the Wild got was totally fluky.
Oh, yeah, it was an ultimate change-up.
I guess this sort of cancels out my argument a little bit, but they did have a lot of really good chances that were just this close to going in. And
that Backes play happened when it was 2-1. That would have been a tie game at that point.
Yeah.
They were looking 2-2, and their third goal didn't come until just under 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
When the Wild were really selling out for offense because they had to. We tie it 2-2, and then we're playing a little bit more of a balanced game where we're trying to limit their chances as well. Could go to overtime, or who knows we could have snuck another one in. So I think that Backus play was hopefully something that we don't remember for very long because it really kind of halted our progress.
It's one of those things where, like I said, you go into St. Louis, you play the first 2 games, you get out of there with a split. If you'd offered that to any one of us last week,
absolutely. You really don't anticipate sweeping them at home. I mean, they're just you got to give St. Louis some respect. They're just too good to absolutely fold like that, no matter what their playoff reputation is.
And I just think on the whole, I like the way the Wild are playing versus the way the Blues are playing, because I mean, the Blues, everyone's going to say like they just physicaled their way to a win in Game 2, which I don't really buy.
No.
They won because they got the goals. That's it. I think the physical stuff had anything to do with it.
They had Tarasenko in a game-saving play like that. That's why they won. But kind of looking ahead to Game 3, something I wrote about for today, Monday, is the Wild have to put their home struggles behind them.
Yeah.
Now, as Russo tweeted out today, they lost 18 of their last 33 home games after starting 7-1 at home. That is incredible, especially considering how great they played after they acquired Newman.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird for this team, too, because even when this team wasn't that good, they always played pretty well at home.
Yep.
I mean, it was always a team that had horrendous road struggles, which was why this road winning streak was so weird for them. And why their struggles at home were a little weird for them. But I think the home struggles, maybe they feel a little bit worse than they should just because of the last 3 home games, albeit losses.
Yeah.
Plus they played so well on the road.
Right. So it really makes a kind of a chasm there. But those 3 road games were all against playoff teams. And the Rangers were the only team to really that I think was anything close to a decisive victory. The Red Wings beat us in a shootout. It's like, well, that could have gone either way. And the Jets game I think was a little bit closer than the 2-0 score indicated. And Andre Pavlik, for whatever reason,
he had back-to-back shutouts. So it was the first of back-to-back shutouts.
He was in the midst of 3 straight shutouts. So, I think that the home struggles are real, but I think people are pretty scared of them just because we lost the last 3 in the regular season, and I'm not as worried about it. I think that the last change is going to be something that's going to be pretty important for controlling Tarasenko. I don't know if they're going to address Eric Kalla a la Nate McKinnon last year, but I wouldn't be against it. I'll put it that way.
I guess I'm not as familiar with Tarasenko's game as I am with McKinnon's game, other than the fact that he's incredible. And I know he has amazing hands. Is speed really a big factor in his game?
I think he's fast. I don't think that he's maybe as much of a speed player as McKinnon is, but I think putting a faster guy like Halla on him, or even we've got Fontaine healthy, which he should be healthy for that game, that can help, or even a lot of people rave about Bergenheim's 2-way play.
I thought Bergenheim was good in Game 1.
I thought he was too.
Better than Cook was in Game 2.
And the only reason he got scratched in Game 2 was because they lost Fontaine, and so they had to bring in a guy that they felt comfortable with in the penalty kill, which was why Cook came in, along with Schrader. But so there's a lot of different views on that. But if they can do something to shut down Tarasenko a little bit, I think that will go a long ways. I know Yo said that he doesn't think it's the same as McKinnon last year because the Blues have a lot of weapons. Well, Avalanche had a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
They have Matt Duchene. They had Paul Stastny last year,
who was
the same player, with the Blues. So I mean, if you consider McKinnon to Tarasenko, Stastny to Stastny, and then you've got Duchene to Backus essentially, which is not exactly a great
it's not
comp.
apples to apples.
But I think that they do have. I think it is a very similar weapon. So I think shutting down Tarasenko should be a priority. It should be something that they look to do. And if they're not putting Paula on him, if he's going to stay in the press box, then I'd like to see him put someone on him, and that be kind of a dedicated thing.
I think, kind of comparing Tarasenko to McKinnon, I think McKinnon has the edge when it comes to speed, but Tarasenko has way better hands, and that's what makes him so much more dangerous in my opinion. McKinnon can just fly up the wing, but when the Wild were on, they were still positioned right defensively, couldn't do anything about it.
No.
Yeah.
Tarasenko still frightens you because he can make a move around a defenseman and score.
He can score in a phone booth, so
Yeah.
that's something McKinnon was going to do.
Well, I mean, obviously we'll go back to this series again with you frequently podcasting throughout the playoffs. But
All right.
let's move on to the other 7 series.
Sure.
And we kind of did this word association style
Yeah.
last week.
And you
And
know
we
what-
don't want to spend hours on every series, but
Right.
maybe just, one thing that's jumped out at everybody on any specific series so far.
So real quick, I hosted that little bit that we did with the word association, and my idea essentially ahead of time was to get a prediction on each series, and we didn't do that.
We did.
So,
We did it. We wrote them up though. We
Yeah,
wrote up
that's
predictions.
right.
At
Yeah,
least
but
2
we
of them.
didn't-
I did 2, and you
yeah,
did 2,
but yeah,
and
no,
Giles did 2.
we didn't do any across the board predictions, which
No.
whatever. It's
Well,
not that
that's
big
why
of a
we have
deal.
the bracket challenge.
That's true.
Although
So let's
some
make the
people
bracket challenge.
kind of copped out and made different picks.
Hey, I
Ben.
stand by being a coward in that situation and splitting the difference because that's how you win at gambling. Not really.
That sounds exactly how you lose gambling.
Yeah, that's exactly how you lose.
So I'll
gambling.
bet both red and black here.
Yeah, and then you get greedy.
Well, we can start with the series that's actually on TV as we're doing this, which is Ottawa-Montreal. And obviously, this is Game 3, and the big story, as perfectly timed, he comes on the screen right now, is that the goaltender for Ottawa is not Andrew Hammond, but Craig Anderson.
Right.
And that didn't take very long.
No, it sure didn't. I mean, it's like I said before. It's the rise and fall of the Hamburglar. You saw him down the stretch just be dynamite, but he flat out didn't look good in the first 2 games. I mean, you weren't expecting him to come out that poorly of a showing, but you can tell that the coach was not happy with him. Not happy with some of the goals that he allowed, especially that overtime winner in Game 2. I mean, that was pretty soft. It
Yeah.
was a slow
A lot of them
on the
were.
ice. Yeah, and so when you're matching Carey Price, I mean, you have to have a goalie that's absolutely on top of its game because that's the Bible that I'll thump for eternity, that goaltending wins playoff matchups, and if you're losing the goaltending matchup that severely, you're not going to go very far. So I don't blame him. I don't blame him for Steve Anderson.
Well, it's also one of those things where it's, the whole Hammond story always had a vibe of,
Right.
it's going to end sometime.
Yeah.
Enjoy it while it lasts. We just, it just so happened that it ended after 2 playoff games. And maybe he'll come back. You never know. And who knows what his career holds from here on out.
Sure.
But, having watched him play maybe 3-4 times during that whole run, every time I was like, how is this guy this good? He's not very good at technique. He's not very big. And he just sort of flops around in there and gets it right. But some of the goals that he got beat on, he got embarrassed on.
Yeah.
And, it's most goalies are close when they don't get it. He wasn't close a lot of the times. And then he made the rest of the saves.
More like Swiss cheeseburger, am I right?
Show
I'll
yourself
show
up.
myself out.
Yeah. What?
My sentiments exactly.
Moving on.
Right.
As fast as we can.
Yes.
We'll go to the series that it's out in Western Canada. Perfectly fitting because Giles is wearing his Calgary jersey tonight. Is that anyone specific or is that just a
No,
generic Calgary?
but I did buy this during the 2004 Stanley Cup playoff run.
Very
Ooh.
nice.
The Dwayne Rollison run.
No. That's
Yeah.
Edmonton.
Oh, I mean, that's right.
That was
It's the Mika Kiprusoff.
Right, yeah, Kiprusoff. How can I forget Kiprusoff? He was awesome.
That was a good team, that Calgary team.
Yeah.
They had a lot of good players. But anyway, Calgary and Vancouver, and I guess the most noticeable thing about this series was the, we'll call it Donnybrook, the end of Game 2. I don't know if you guys were up late, but I watched it.
I didn't. I saw the replays of it after the fact, but that looked like a barrel of laughs, basically.
It was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what that looked like.
I mean, you had one guy literally fighting 2 people. And granted, by the time this podcast airs for the rest of it, they will have played Game 3. This is tonight. But yeah, Game 2 was a mess.
Kudos to Derek England for fighting 2 guys at once. I've
Yeah.
never seen that before.
Yeah, and then he had to fight Derek Dorsett again after that was over. So
Yeah, that was bizarre, and I don't know. Hartley got fined $50,000 for that whole shenanigan, which
well, he's
I
been
think
down
is-
this road before with John Tortorella.
Right. So I don't know. It seemed like a weird deal, but that's what playoff hockey is about. I mean, you've got 2 teams that are I don't know if you can call them bitter rivals, but they're only a province away from each other, and they don't like each other very much. So you're going to get these kind of things occasionally. I mean, this isn't the Jets-Ducks series where the teams just happen to play physical and don't really have any kind of existing rivalry at all. These teams do. I mean, they've been playing for decades now.
Well, Canadian teams, get up, and Calgary and Vancouver do have history. It's just been so long.
Ancient
I mean, they
history.
did play during that run. Calgary knocked Vancouver out during that run of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Sure.
In a 7-game series.
Sure.
All their series have been 7 games.
Right.
The rest of them were all in the late 80s. But Canadian teams and Canadian fan bases really get up for playing other Canadian fan bases.
Yeah.
And that's made this series a little bit extra special. And like I said before, I'm really looking forward to watching it. I'm looking forward to going home after this and watching Game 3 because it's a series that it's pretty pure as a series, and it's just enjoyable for your average fan to watch. And even though neither of those teams are really supposed to make any noise, it's still fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely I'll watch Game 3 now that I've had 2 cherry cokes here at 7 p.m. That's not good when you have to be up at 5 a.m. the next day.
Ooh, and you've got another podcast to do tonight.
Yeah.
You're going to hear Giles all over the Wild Extra airwaves.
Yeah, I'm
Stealing my podcast.
going around
thunder.
like Ben did last week.
I'm the only one who stays true to this podcast when I show up. Or maybe it's just no one wants to call me.
Oh, you're busy on other airwaves, so you've got that going on.
Yeah, busy talking to myself during lacrosse
games, yeah.
That's why I was late. I was late for Game 2.
Yeah.
Game 1, because I was broadcasting a lacrosse game that ended 18-14. It was fun. Lacrosse is actually kind of fun to do. I mean, total side note. I don't have a ton of experience with it, but it's been enjoyable.
Yes.
So.
I'm with you.
Well, moving on to series number 3. We'll stay in the Western Conference this time and go to the Anaheim-Winnipeg.
Yeah, that was a trendy pick for an upset, but not so much. Huh? I mean, I'm not ready to call the series over. It's one of 2 series that's 2-0 right now. But given what I think Winnipeg can be like at home, I'm not ready to call that series over by 3.
I can't wait to watch that.
Exactly.
This could be like Minnesota, Colorado last year.
Exactly.
Kind of where you see the home team win every game.
Well, and that's one of the playoff adages, that you're not in trouble in a series until you lose at home. Obviously the Wild have been down that road before.
Right. I think that's kind of what that series might shape up to be. I mean, we'll see what happens in Game 3. That's obviously a pivotal game, but I think the emotions couldn't possibly get any higher for Winnipeg at that point.
The emotions for tomorrow night's game are going to be unlike anything you've probably seen in a long time.
Deafening.
And we'll see if they can bring it back for Game 4. But Game 3 is going to be an experience. I mean, there were tweets going on about it today from people like Darren Drager, who I think is in Winnipeg, and saying that the city is it's palpable now, and the game's 24 hours away. So that should be great.
And all it costs you is $750 to get a ticket in the door.
Well, and that arena only holds 12, right? 12 grand?
No, it's 15.
Really? Yeah. I thought it was smaller than that.
No, it's 15.5.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I thought it was more like a 12 grand seat or something.
You're thinking Seattle.
I don't think they can do that. I think there's a minimum for NHL arenas, and Winnipeg is barely above it.
Okay.
But it's not 12.
I knew it was a little bit smaller than the typical arena, but I thought it was much smaller.
Well, they built it for the Moose, right?
Sure.
And then renovated it for the Jets?
Must have, yeah.
I think.
Well,
or at least touched it up.
I thought I heard they were going to add more seats at some point. But
yeah, I had heard something
they really
like that, too.
haven't. Maybe that's just me.
I don't know how you do that, but I don't know.
It can be done.
Yeah.
It's probably a pretty big project, but it can be done.
Yeah.
Well, that's off the ice, but on the ice, I mean, the Jets they're not scoring any goals.
No, I mean, that series, and obviously, the Ducks won Game 2 with, 20 seconds left?
Yeah, but I think
last
19.
night.
That was a terrible goal.
Yeah, that was...
The holding the stick terrible? Or?
No,
the
goal that won it.
Yeah.
That was
the
just
goal
a soft goal to give up.
Well, it's too bad because Pavlik was the only player that kept Winnipeg in it the entire game.
So, I think that series, I don't, obviously the Ducks have controlled most of it, but I don't think the Jets are really, it's 2-0, but the Jets really haven't been dominated, I don't think. They haven't really been, shown they don't belong in that series as much as the 2-0 lead would maybe indicate to some people. So I really do have hope for that series still. I really do think that could be a really good first-round series. So obviously Game 3 will be kind of the linchpin to proving that argument.
All right. Well, the final series, we already touched on this from a Paul Gostad angle.
Yes.
Nashville and Chicago. And from my perspective on this one, Nashville's got to wonder why they can't have nice things. They get up 3-0 in game 1, and Scott Darling comes in and steals it. They win game 2 going away, and possibly ruin Corey Crawford's career in the process. And they wake up to find that Shea Weber's hurt, and Mike Fisher was already hurt. And they don't have either of them for game 3, which they promptly lose to Scott Darling. So, I don't know. I don't think they're a significantly worse team than Chicago, and I think they're actually probably a little pound for pound a little better. And they're going to lose this series because they're losing people.
I have two thoughts here. One, I tweeted this out earlier before my Paul Gostad rant, was that I don't believe Nashville wins another game in this series. I took a little heat for it. I will probably continue to take heat for it. But
that's what Twitter's all about.
They lose, I will stand by it. Second, I have a story about the game 1. I went to my friend's house. We watched the first period. Nashville went up 3-0. Then we were going to Pizza Luce for trivia night, and we're thinking game will be on, it'll be just fine. Well, apparently at Pizza Luce they take their trivia very seriously. You cannot check your phone.
Oh God!
And none of the TVs had the hockey game on, and it took the entire second period for us to get them to change it. So by the time we got it turned, we noticed the game was tied. And we're like, you have to be kidding me. And we got scorched in trivia. So me and my friend just kind of looked at each other like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
Was it themed trivia of any kind? Or?
No, it was just, there were different, like,
Which Pizza Luce? We're going to call this location out.
Richmond.
I don't even know where that one is.
Like, it was forbidden to look at your phone. So can you just imagine sitting through a Stanley Cup playoff game, not being able to use your phone when there's no TV showing the game?
First of all,
not to leave the house.
I think that's one. Why were you going to trivia during the playoffs? They'll still have it in July.
That's a good point.
I try to be a good friend and attend some kind of
that's your
functions.
first
but
mistake. Misanthrope's the way to go. I think that's you need to watch all the playoff games.
So I'll probably return to trivia after the playoffs are over.
Yeah, as far as that series goes, I mean, kind of bizarre, really, and I think you're right on with Nashville not being able to have nice things. A lot of people predicted this. A lot of people thought that Chicago would win pretty handily. Nashville wasn't a very popular pick. But the way that it's gone down, even with a 2-1 lead for Chicago right now, which a lot of people would have predicted, the way it's gone down has really been unpredictable. We've got Corey Crawford letting up 9 goals in the first 4 periods that he plays, and Scott Darling.
Gostad in his head now.
Scott Darling not allowing a single goal in the first 4 periods that he plays, to the tune of 42 saves. I think this could have more ramifications. A lot of people have said that Corey Crawford is making Scott Darling a lot of money right now, but what does Chicago do from here?
I said that.
Yeah. What does Chicago do from here? I mean,
That's my next question.
You ride with Darling at this point?
Would.
You kind of have to, don't you? I mean, obviously Crawford's confidence is pretty shaken. I watched a fair amount of game 2, and the first couple of goals he let up were pretty legit. I didn't actually end up seeing game 3, period 3 of that.
It went downhill fast.
And that's what I heard. They were all horrible. And then I heard the other 4 goals that he allowed them were pretty horrendous. So obviously it's there's something not right about him mentally, and you got to just kind of move on and hope that he can bounce back.
It's a slump. It's a slump at a bad time.
Right. Exactly.
But I think you have to go with Darling because if you go back to Crawford now, and Joel Quenneville said Crawford's going to play again, but if you go back to Quenneville for game 4 after Darling just won game 3, and Crawford slumps again, then he'll get accused of giving away a game. And if you go back to Crawford after Darling stumbles, then you can justify it.
Right.
So just wait. I mean, if they're going to make a deep run, which is what he's hoping, they'll probably use them both again.
It's probably fair to point out that Corey Crawford is going to make $6 million starting next year for the next 7 years or something like that.
Oh, awkward.
Yeah.
In which city?
Philadelphia.
It's Edmonton on line 1. No, Steve Mason's solid there. They actually have a goalie now.
Yeah.
Mason was great at the end of the season. He was. But okay, we'll move on again. We'll go to the Eastern Conference. We're going to start with a series that I will admit right now, and I said before the series started I didn't want to watch it, and I have watched maybe 2 total minutes, and that's running time, not hockey minutes,
right,
of this series to date, and that's Pittsburgh and New York.
Yeah. I watched more of it. Because it led into the Wild game on Thursday, obviously. So I watched a fair amount of that, and then I actually watched a fair amount of it last night as well. And, you know, kind of on the same lines as Nashville and Chicago, a little weird. It's Marc-Andre Fleury has been kind of, you know, himself, but in both different ways, both good Marc-Andre Fleury and bad Marc-Andre Fleury, within the same game. His first 2 goals that he let in Game 1 were not so great, but then he really cinched it down. They still ended up losing. And then in Game 2, same deal. I mean, he let up some goals that, you know, I don't know how iffy they were, but then he really cinched it down. So it's kind of been, you know, a tale of 2 flurries, and that's really been the reason why this series is tied right now.
I give Pittsburgh credit. I didn't think they would win a game.
Yeah.
And they did yesterday.
I thought they would win a game.
Yeah, I had
just because they have too much talent to lose all 4 in a row. But yeah, in the series.
And Sid scoring 2 goals, that's always going to.
And then
you're going to win a lot of games when that happens.
Kind of a nervous moment when he kind of took a hit yesterday and he was kind of down for a little bit. And then he
Crosby
kind of on the bench, and then he was kind of just looking like he was dazed. But I think it was more like a jaw injury if I read right today.
He was that. I did see footage of him working out the jaw.
Yeah.
So, well, I have no comments because, like I said, I haven't watched it. I don't plan on watching it. Those teams bore me to death.
Yeah.
And
I'm fascinated by it because, you know, as I mentioned, because I wrote the preview for this matchup for the site, and you know, I'm a little bit of a closet Pens fan. You know, all the way back to Mario Lemieux and whatnot. But
not anymore. You're not. You just admitted it.
Well, yeah.
This is going to be on iTunes.
Broadcasting to the world.
Oh, that's right.
And also I want to see the Rangers because they're just, I mean, they're my pick to win the cup, and because they're just so damn good. They're just so good. So I have been watching it and seeing as how it's going to lead into the Wild game again, I believe on Wednesday. You know, it's been something that I'll be semi-interested in and flipping around to.
I'll pick up the Rangers when they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I have no choice.
Right.
They'll be playing against some team that I will be rooting for against them.
Exactly.
So we're down to we got 2 left. We got 2 left. Yeah.
Yes.
Detroit and Tampa.
Yep.
And another series, I haven't seen a ton of this series either. I saw more of Game 2, ironically, because it was on the exact same time as the Wild game. But Game 1 just sounded insane.
Yeah, it sounded like Mrazek stole it, essentially. I mean, you know, the process has been exactly what everyone expected, with Tampa Bay really, I mean, kind of, you know, taking it to the Red Wings. But the series is tied because Mrazek, I think he made 42 saves or 45 saves, something like 40-plus saves in Game 1, and the Red Wings were under 20 shots.
They had 14.
Yeah. And so, you know, that game aside, I think it's still, you know, that's going to be a series I think is over quicker than the
Game 2 was pretty dominating.
Yeah, than the 1-1 series would indicate right now. You know, opposite of Winnipeg, Anaheim, very much.
Well, see, yesterday at Tom Reed's, I thought we were going to get to watch Detroit, Tampa Bay on the TV on the side from where we were sitting, but then a near bar fight before the Wild game started nearly broke out over that television.
Like people arguing about what?
Yes.
Yeah, it got a little
One
heated.
lady was wearing a Tampa Bay Lightning jersey.
Stamkos,
She wanted to have this TV on to the Lightning game, and when the Wild game started, it got switched to the Twins and Indians game.
Yeah.
Just to be
this guy's defense for switching it, like they were loudly fighting.
Yeah.
And it was, I told them an hour ago they were going to leave it on this Twins game. And then he justifies it as well with, this isn't Florida.
This is Minnesota.
Sir, you're in a hockey bar.
Yeah, you're at
Get
Tom
out.
Reed's. I mean, not to say they can't air baseball games at Tom Reed's, but I would be willing to bet that a vast majority of the people there would be much more interested in the
Right.
Red Wings Tampa Bay playoff game than game, what is it, 8 out of 162 for the Twins? Like,
Clearly,
you know,
This
maybe it's me.
man is more devoted than the Twins than John Bonus is. Because when
Bonus
the
didn't
Wild
care
game
as
started, John hardly looked over at the game.
Yeah. Which, you know, at the end of the day, it's a playoff game. It's a playoff game, and you're at a very hockey-centric bar.
Yeah. Well, I think the real message here is that we need to get on the horn with Nick and Parker and Seth from Twins Daily and tell them how uncommitted John is to the whole
To the
cause.
product, yeah.
Yeah, you went to spring training. I don't care.
Yeah, so he flew to Fort Myers, whatever.
So, John, you have 2 days to defend yourself.
Yeah, that
guys,
was-
I just got fired. Sorry.
Yeah, and we're done.
Giles, I'm the goalie. We'll resume after this.
Singular.
All right, one final series then. Another one that was played today, Sunday, ended in overtime. In a blink if you missed
Very
it, fashion.
quickly in overtime.
I did.
Fashion. Yeah.
I went to throw some laundry in the washer.
And you missed
By
it.
the time I came back, Cal Clutterbuck was telling Alex Ovechkin to
Yeah, no, we got it.
expletive.
Yeah. I got you covered because I had to go to a 1-year-old's birthday party this morning.
Oh, wow.
It was just as much fun as it sounds like.
Yeah.
And I got home just in time to turn on overtime, and that was the only 15 seconds of the game I saw. So
Nice.
between Giles and I, we watched this whole thing.
Nice.
But I think somehow that's going to leave me more satisfied than him.
Thankfully,
I didn't see a minute of either way. So
No,
how does it work?
you were at work.
thankfully the technology, I was able to rewind and
Sure.
watch it
God bless DVRs.
loudly.
I could have taped the whole thing, couldn't I? But I didn't.
Yeah, I think this series, I think it was a really, and this is the one that Giles alluded to, where I cowardly picked both teams in 2 different places. On the website, I wrote the preview for this series, and I picked the Islanders for no reason other than I had a feeling, because every single stat in the world pointed to the Capitals, being a pretty heavy favorite of the series. That's just the stats, though. But so, I picked the Islanders, but in the bracket challenge, I will admit I picked the Capitals to move on.
I don't
based on the
remember
stats.
who I picked. I think I picked the Capitals.
Yeah, but that's kind of how this series has gone. It's been pretty back and forth, and nobody would have predicted Braden Holtby being 0-2 in the playoffs. But
Right. Philip Grubauer,
yeah,
the goalie of the future.
that's it's been
Hashtag free Grubauer.
right.
Free Grubauer.
As Giles actually tweeted a tweet of his that I remember from probably a week ago now, the NHL playoffs would be just as unpredictable as the regular season was. So really living up to it as far as
That's what makes them so much fun. isn't it?
Grubauer being 1-0 for the Capitals and Braden Holtby, Vezina contender, being 0-2.
Yeah.
I'll give the Islanders credit. I thought they were pretty bad down the stretch. They kind of backed into the playoffs a little bit, and the Capitals were just exact opposite. They just flew into the playoffs, and I'm thinking this is kind of a dark horse pick for Eastern Conference, and boy, they're
Yeah,
just
still
looking
could be.
like the Capitals of
Still
old.
could be. When the game went to overtime today, I just thought to myself, how nervous are the people in the press box for that game? Because I believe Saturday was the anniversary of the Easter epic between those 2 teams in 1987. So that was my only thought, and that's all I had time for because the game ended 3 seconds later.
The lone thought that you had.
That's right. I turned
That
this
was a
on and I
great
thought, Pat
was a good
LaFontaine. And then the game was over. All right, we'll move on from the playoffs for now. Obviously, there's a lot more to come, and we'll talk about it.
Yes.
And we'll move on to the hot topic of the weekend. And I did just roll my eyes while saying that because I think this is the dumbest controversy in the history of sport, or the history of hockey.
It is.
The draft lottery.
Did you say hot topic or hot take topic?
Hot take. It was, yeah. My computer, actually, this is my second computer of the weekend. The first one melted down from all the horrible tweets that came out. We're recording this directly into my backup.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously by now you know the Oilers won the draft lottery, and it broke the world.
Hashtag break the internet.
Yep. I heard so many horrible theories about what should be done with the first pick. If you want to change the draft lottery, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
In fact, there's one draft lottery plan that I like more than others. I think we talked about it before.
You know what's funny about that?
The gold plan.
You know what's funny about that?
What?
The Oilers would have the first pick.
Would they?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
what's his
fine.
name? The editor of Puck Day tweeted out.
Oh, yeah.
He had the results. The Oilers had 15 wins since they were eliminated. And
So-
the Sabres had 12. And
people still accuse the Oilers of tanking. I know the Oilers did lose like their last 6 games of the year,
Right.
but they won like 7 in a row before that.
They beat the Kings.
You know what I mean?
They eliminated the Kings with a win in the last
Right.
week.
Yeah, they did.
It's one of those things where
And they didn't really make any active. I mean, they made a couple of trades here and there, but they didn't.
they
really,
traded Jeff Petrie.
right.
whatever.
Buffalo.
They were
going
going to do it anyway.
Buffalo made a pretty concerted effort to get rid of anybody and everybody who could contribute to that
Would you
team.
make a concerted effort to make Anders Lindback your number
Your
one
number one-
goalie for more than a day? Yeah, you were tanking. Arizona tried to trade everybody they could.
Right.
And they were tanking.
And so, as much as everyone hates it because, Edmonton's a running joke in the hockey world, which I totally understand. I'm not taking anything away from their folly.
Right.
But at the same time, it's kind of funny for Buffalo and Arizona because they kind of got their comeuppance. I mean, they really...
Buffalo, Jack Eichel's a really good player.
No.
But-
Yeah, I know what you mean, but even their GM said they're disappointed they didn't get the first pick. It's like,
Well, that was dumb.
You had an 80% chance that you weren't going to.
Right.
So, you won the tank battle in that you were guaranteed a top 2 pick. Be happy with Jack Eichel because he's going to, be a part of turning your franchise around.
Yeah.
Is he Connor McDavid? I don't know. Everyone seems to prefer McDavid over Eichel right now. Maybe it's a Leaf Manning situation. Who knows? But you should be pretty happy with what you got.
All right.
And ha-ha to you because you tanked so hard you got the number 2 pick.
Hot take theory number 2. Heard this from several sources. The Oilers should trade the number 1 pick.
Oh.
Which, here's why it boggles my mind. You just got a new life. I know the Oilers have had a lot of first overall picks, and they didn't do what they should with them.
Right.
And, maybe they shouldn't have picked Nail Yakupov number 1 overall because they should have gone need there.
I still like the Nugent Hopkins pick. That's
Nugent Hopkins and Taylor Hall are fine players, whatever.
Yeah.
But you literally, you're going to draft Connor McDavid, and no matter how he feels about it, he's going to go play for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, I don't know that he pulls a Lindros. No, I don't think that happens.
With all respect to their previous first overall picks, none of them were as hyped as McDavid.
Not
Right.
even close.
Right.
Close.
The closest you could get to being this hyped was Taylor Hall.
Yeah.
But not this.
But
not-
that was
it's
more
not
because it was
anywhere.
a package deal with Sagan.
Right.
The
Right.
whole Tyler Taylor promotion.
Right. You could argue that, just because of the advent of Twitter and whatnot, this is maybe the most hyped first overall pick ever. Sidney Crosby was super insane, crazy hyped, and it obviously lived up to it, but, there wasn't as much talk about it because of social media.
Yeah.
That was also coming right out of the lockout.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking about anything.
Yeah, nobody was talking about the NHL at all. They were like, oh, they're playing? Yeah, whoopee-doo. Oh, the Sidney Crosby kid? Who cares?
But my overall point is that, literally, Craig McTavish can go out and trade anybody he wants off this roster now and build it around Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
They're not going to end up with too many centers.
No.
Because they can trade 2 of them and still have any combination of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, and McDavid.
Right.
And I
Well,
guess I left somebody out.
Fair
But
point. You can never have too many good centers.
That's true. Yeah.
And who
as
knows?
the Wild have shown.
Not everybody who plays center in junior plays center in the NHL. It's a totally different game. So, the fact that they would give up a generational player because his position is already filled. I'm sorry, you won 25 games or whatever this year. That position is not filled.
No.
Just go fill it with Connor McDavid and build your roster around it.
Yeah, I saw that exact hot take from a lot of people. Some people whose opinion I very respect, and some people whose opinion I don't like so much. But I don't want to be too much of a dick, but it's like one of the dumbest things I've seen.
Yeah.
It's like going to Pittsburgh after they win the Crosby lottery and being like, you know what? You could use some defense. You better think about dealing. Come on. When it's a talent like this, and maybe McDavid doesn't live up to it. Maybe he turns out to be, insert mega bust here. But, at this point, you can't assume that.
Right.
you have to assume he is the next Sidney Crosby. He is the next, maybe not Wayne Gretzky, but he is the next Mario Lemieux. He is that kind of generational talent that everyone says he is.
Well, how many points would Gretzky score if he had to play in today's NHL?
Well,
it wouldn't be
not
216.
Nearly, no, it wouldn't. No, not even close. But you can't.
Still be the best,
do that.
but
You're going to build around this kid for literally a decade or more. You can't start it off with shipping it off to another team, and basically, winning a cup for another team.
Right.
Speaking of Crosby, I think this was a week ago. Might have been a week and a half ago. I forget where it was. It was like the hockey writers or somebody wrote a story saying that whoever gets the number 1 pick should trade it to Pittsburgh for Sidney Crosby.
That was the best. Yeah, I put that up on the forum, and I was like,
my God.
what are you talking about? It wasn't the hockey writers. It was the Sporting News.
Yes, that's right.
We don't want to trash anybody who didn't do that.
No.
Sorry, my apologies. But no, that's absurd. Never trade Sidney Crosby, because as we discussed.
But speaking of the players the Oilers could trade, and I think the Oilers roster is going to look, especially now with McDavid, it's going to look really different come July 1st.
Well, I think you're right.
And it's just going to be a free for all. But they need defensemen and they need goaltending, and they have all these potential trade chips now. How attractive does Jordan Eberle look to a team that maybe has a goalie that's in flux, like Jimmy Howard or Corey Crawford, to go to Edmonton and be the guy, unquestioned?
Right.
Apparently for $6 million. I'm just throwing out names that we know are,
absolutely.
obviously
and that's just it. I mean,
two guys that have lost their jobs in the last couple of days.
And there's lots and plenty of very justified crap talked about McTavish, but assuming he's keeping his job, which it looks like he is.
Well, McTavish didn't do a lot of this. He's only been the GM there for like a year and a half.
That's true. Yeah. So, but this is where he's going to earn his medal, because this is, what they do around McDavid after they pick him. Assuming everything goes, on the straight and narrow there. That's going to really shape this franchise, because, like you said, you can deal. I mean, they have so many forwards that are so talented that are probably still very highly regarded by a lot of NHL teams. Mm-hmm. Where you can go and
they're
get
good
a defenseman.
players.
Yeah,
it's just not the right mix of players.
And maybe you trade for a later pick. Maybe you can still deal like a Taylor Hall for a top 10 pick in this draft or something like that, and take a defenseman.
Oh man.
I don't think they're going to land Hanifin. They're not going to get him in a trade. But maybe you deal it, maybe you deal to the Coyotes and get a defenseman off of them, because they're in position to draft Hanifin. Something along those lines. I mean, obviously,
Well,
stars
maybe they can see how serious the Coyotes were when people were saying they might trade Oliver Ekman
Exactly.
Larson.
I mean,
which I don't think they ever were.
I don't think they will either. But imagine a haul for Oliver Ekman Larson deal, and then Phoenix can take Hanifin. That's obviously, there's a lot of moving parts there, but there's so much you can do. I mean, this is really, video game GM type stuff right here.
Well, that's the thing that really bothered me, is that when people were saying right after the lottery that, the Oilers are going to get McDavid, it's going to be a wasted pick, and he's going to, all this kind of stuff. It's one of those things where it's like, do you think that the Oilers' plan is, all right, we got all these guys, we're a terrible team, but we're just going to drop Connor McDavid into our existing roster, and that's
expect
it.
to win. Yeah, no,
they're going to make
they're
moves.
not that dumb. Yeah.
So now they just feel like they can.
And I thought about it from a different perspective too. Like, obviously it was hilarious when it first happened, because, we've made jokes on Lost podcasts about, oil change, the series being in syndication now because it's been going on for so long. But
I still want them to bring back Pocklington.
Huge rating spike for the oil change next week.
Well, I actually tweeted out that the NHL series announces that they're no longer renewing oil change after they introduce the new character. But, it's still... It could be something that's a huge opportunity for McDavid. I mean, he's wearing number 97. We know of a very popular number 99 that was in Edmonton. Right. He could resurrect Gretzky's franchise. How huge is that? I mean, in the exact same way that Crosby resurrected Lemieux's franchise.
And that's the thing that bothers me about, like, people who are saying, like, well, he doesn't want to go there. First of all, it's a super awkward position for him to get interviewed last night. Because while the draft lottery just happened, until he's actually picked, he can't say, like, well, that's my team.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
He's not going to run out and buy an Oilers cap right now.
So I don't know how much of it yesterday was disappointment or was him just trying to not say anything really stupid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And he's an 18-year-old kid on international television trying not to say anything stupid. None of us have ever been in that position. So, and the other thing is, you're exactly right. any player who is viewed as a generational player, and I think he probably believes he's that good, not in an arrogant way, he just is really skilled.
I mean, look at the points he put.
Would want to go somewhere and be
The guy.
Yeah. Even if it's Edmonton. Edmonton, if they end up being good again, and it's because of Connor McDavid, they'll build a statue of him by like December if they're in first
selling
place.
out games with a basement team for the last decade. I mean, imagine what they would do if they had a guy like that.
If my choices were to go to Edmonton or go to Arizona, I'll take Edmonton every time if I'm a hockey player.
Absolutely.
It's a hockey town.
I mean, he's Canadian.
Yeah. It's not like he's not unused to winter. He's from Toronto and he's been living in Erie, Pennsylvania for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and so on those lines of not running out and citing and saying, how many, and I'm probably thinking in the hundreds, how many Connor McDavid Oiler jerseys were purchased today?
In the hundred? Oh, it's more than the hundreds.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I almost said thousands, but I dialed it back to hundreds. I bet it's bordering on thousands.
Well, that's interesting because
I'm surprised you guys don't have one yet.
I looked it up.
I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to an Edmonton Oilers jersey at this point.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
But if I were to get one, it
Right.
What about
would be
the
McDavid.
old Lugnut jersey they had? What was that one that they?
the
When
gear-
everybody was
the big
making
gear in the
terrible
front?
third jerseys.
Yes.
I can't believe one of you has that.
My friend has one. I give him crap for it all the time.
When you said Lugnut, I thought you were talking about Ron Tugnutt. Didn't he play for them?
He might have.
He played for everyone.
He
so
did.
that-
He played for. I know he played for Pittsburgh.
I think he
played for
spent a
Quebec.
year on every NHL franchise.
It is my goal to get all the most obscure jerseys in the history of hockey, so
You
that
don't
probably
own
would be
Oilers
my
yet.
Oilers.
Until one of you guys shows up to this podcast in a Cleveland Barons jersey. I don't want to hear this
It's my
hype.
goal to show up to this in a LA Kings Burger King jersey.
Oh, God. Too bad they're like $700 on eBay
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
I had to win the lottery first.
Pretty much.
All right.
I think that wraps it.
Yeah. No more talk about the lottery.
Well, I guess as we kind of wrap this up here, Ben and I are blessed, #blessed, to have Charlie with us here today when he's not playing hockey with the governor of Minnesota. Former governor of Minnesota, Tim Plenty, as we saw in the news this last week.
Yeah.
In the news. Yeah. Which is actually not why I was on the news.
Well,
Do you want me to explain the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not big on politics, as we went over
Neither
a few
am I.
podcasts ago with our wild rice takes.
Yes. It's true.
We never aired
That was
one.
lost, yeah.
That's right.
It's unfortunate. But anyway.
Wild Race hot takes.
We'll explain the wild rice hot takes at another time. But Friday afternoon, like a month ago, a guy I know who actually play on a team with, and he's the goalie on that team, and I'm the goalie on a different team. He emailed me and said, I play in this game at Wakota every Friday. It's at like 12:30, and they need another goalie, like to come play regularly. And I know that your work schedule is not your typical work schedule. And I said, sure, I'll do it. And so I went and played. And he told me that like a lot of the people that played there when I got there, he told me a lot of the people that played in this game worked in government, and maybe they were, they worked at the Capitol in some capacity.
Yeah, you're just thinking like desk clerks and
Or
assistants
whatever.
and
I
somebody.
wasn't thinking that level. He did say that sometimes like Chris Coleman, the current mayor of St. Paul, had come down and played.
Ye of little faith, Chris Coleman.
I'd be the mad cook in that league.
Yeah, that's what Giles said yesterday. So I didn't think anything of it, and I don't know anything about national politics, let alone local politics.
Right.
And I used to live literally 10 blocks from the White House.
Washington, D.C.
So I went and I just played, and it was like the fourth time I'd been there, and I got there a little late, and I got suited up, and I got out on the ice, and like maybe 5 minutes after that, I'm at this is at Wakota Ice Rink, which has two rinks, and there's like a lobby in the middle.
Yep.
And I was in the goal that was very close to the lobby, and I turned around to take a drink of water or something. I looked out there, and I looked behind me, and I was like, there's a guy in a WCCO t-shirt with a very nice-looking camera and a man in a suit right there, who I later found out was Pat Kessler, who's a reporter for WCCO. He's been there for a really long time. And they're doing a story, and they're shooting like right behind me, over my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. A couple minutes after that, there's a player he's going into the corner to go out and get a puck and loses an edge and face plants into the board. Hard. And the play goes the other way, and it's a friendly pickup game, so I skate over there just as he's kind of gingerly getting up. And I'm like, hey, are you all right? And he goes, yes, yeah, I'm fine. And he gets up and he skates away. And I sort of saw his face, and I was like, I kind of look like Tim Pauletti. But no, not even close. And he was going against me the whole game.
Sure.
And so I got to see his face a lot.
Right.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure that was Tim Pauletti. And I found out after the game that it was Tim Pauletti.
Oh, sure.
So not just the weirdest part was that this is a guy who not only was former governor of Minnesota, but also did try to run for president.
Right. Yeah.
So that was the strange part.
Thrown
for me.
around. Yeah.
And so I got home and I wrote to I found that it was Pat Kessler who did the story, and I wrote to him and I was like, you were there. I kind of want to see this footage, with the idea that I would link it on Wild Extra.
Sure.
Like, I was there for this, and I don't know why they're doing a story. Maybe it was because Tim Pauletti was playing hockey.
Right.
Turns out that wasn't what it was. It was a story about environmental effects of rinks having to change their cooling systems because they can't use Freon anymore and stuff like that.
A lot of money.
And there's a handful of shots of me, one where I got scored on, one where I made a really good save,
Nice.
and one where it was a really weird bouncing puck,
Oh.
over my shoulder. It didn't go in, though.
Oh. You got
and-
Jake Allen.
I did. Yeah, I got real lucky. I think it came down and skimmed the crossbar and stayed out from 10 feet above the net. So that was the story. So that's how I played hockey with Tim Pauletti on Friday.
Did they
and
mention
do
at
it
all
again.
that it was Tim Pauletti playing during that news story?
They did not. He had nothing to do with the story. I don't even know if they knew he was there.
That's a really weird coincidence.
Well, it's one of those things where it's it's not like the thing
kind of
where
a politically rooted story, a little bit,
I didn't even know he was there. It's not like he ever introduced himself to me or anybody said ooh, that's Tim Pauletti.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Yeah,
those people probably knew him, and it was more funny for me because like I said, I went to school in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends still live there, and they all work in politics.
Right.
Or they're very interested in politics, because that's why they were in Washington D.C. in the first place. Sure. Don't ask me why I was there.
I was going to say it seems weird.
But it's funny that I would come back here and meet a former presidential candidate, whereas they would all hope to meet somebody like that someday and work really hard at it. And I'm just like, he was there, and I didn't even realize it. So I kind of rubbed that into them on Facebook a little bit.
That's fair.
But that was the story. So no, I don't know him. We're not friends, and he probably scored on me a couple times.
Okay.
That's the whole story.
That's fair.
Kind of side question here is, if I was to understand this story correctly, they're banning whatever this is.
They already did.
Well,
Yeah.
They did.
Well, Freon is what's been in your car air conditioner forever.
Actually, yes and no. I know the automotive industry pretty well. They stopped using it probably in 1997, I believe.
Okay.
They use a different chemical called R134 now, and that's stuff that you can buy at Target and whatnot, and it's a lot more environmentally friendly. The Freon stuff is actually, very not environmentally friendly, and so you have to have that professionally put into your car. You can't buy a bottle of that at any automotive store and then just plug it in, with a little gauge like you would from the little kit that you get at Target. So that makes a lot of sense that's being changed, but as the story pointed out, that's quite expensive for a lot of these really old, because a lot of these arenas were built in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're all, kind of cookie cutter and using the same technology.
Of the rinks they're probably talking about, Coda is probably one of the nicer ones. I mean, some of the other ones are probably St. Paul City rinks.
Right.
Those things are bad as it gets.
I played on a lot of those growing up, as I'm sure a lot of people in the Twin Cities had, but so I don't doubt that's a huge issue, because Freon was really efficient at cooling things, but it's also a pretty horrendous chemical, so I can see how that would be a problem. So,
and from what I understand of the story, they banned this in the early 90s in the ice rinks, but they gave them a really long grace period to try to phase it in, and the state is trying to help out with the budget concerns for these rinks.
Because a lot of them are county rinks. A lot of them are county rinks, and that's where a lot of youth associations get their ice time from. They get it basically donated from the county that they belong to.
And there I was, right there in the middle of it all.
Yep.
Didn't even know. I was on political dynamite. I was just trying to stop shop.
Which is fitting. It's fitting.
Well, the funny part about it is, and this is not because they were there, but I showed up and I played really well for 20 minutes.
And then
the camera crew left. And after that, like, basically my team just stopped playing defense. The last hour was, like, just a steady stream of 2-on-0s.
Oh, nice.
And I actually got really frustrated with them at one point because
see that.
it's not that great to do that for an hour. Just get torched.
Yeah, that sucks.
And the players in this game are a really wide skill level.
Sure.
Some of them are actually very good.
Yeah,
and some of them were, just there because they own a pair of skates.
Yeah.
And I'm somewhere in the middle.
So basically, when the camera was on, you were John Quinn.
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. That was it.
Playing up.
Yeah.
There you go.
When the camera was off, I was late era Nicholas Backstrom.
See.
Poor Nick. I'm gonna write up a nice eulogy.
I'm sorry I did that because Nicholas Backstrom is.
No, don't be sorry.
I still feel bad because Ben and I both basically crapped on him on his birthday on the site.
I wrote a.
Did you know it was your birthday?
No, we had no
I
idea.
had no idea. And what the worst part was, I looked at his profile page.
I didn't.
And totally scanned over that part while writing up that post.
I didn't. I just had an idea for a stand-up goalie article where at the time it was Dubnyk was in his hot streak, so we really had no need for Backstrom whatsoever, which we didn't down the stretch. So he got dealt to a beer league hockey team.
I remember that one.
So I just coincidentally, I write that, and then Giles writes his about his situation and leading up to basically his end of days with the Wild. And we both published the same day on a Friday on his birthday, and we didn't know until a reader called us out on it, and it was like, "Oh, we are
that reader has not
jerks.
been back.
We are just jerks." So sorry for that. Didn't I've never really been a huge fan of his, but I certainly don't mean him any ill will. So bad.
It seems like a good place to wrap this thing up.
Bad.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us in this first playoff edition of the Charlie and the Jerks podcast. And we'll be back. I don't know if we'll be back in a week or if we'll be back anytime sooner than that. We'll be back when we can.
We'll see.
We'll have more playoff stuff to talk about.
The series holds.
But enjoy it. And also, if you are listening to this and you have not listened to the 5-Minute Major, which I believe are going to record tonight, publish tomorrow. Giles is going to be on there.
Yes.
Those guys are awesome and always entertaining on the podcast and very much so in real life. So listen to that one too. And then watch the Wild tonight. Game 3, 7 o'clock. Enjoy.